Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. This is like take 500 of this video. It's now 1:30 a.m. No joke. I started recording at 10:30 a.m. 10:30 p.m. So bear with me. It's going to be an awesome video though. I've still not lost hope. We'll split it into three different sections. So Bitcoin TA, Bitcoin spot ETFs, and finally we'll be covering some overall news in crypto. Do watch until the end. It's going to be highly informative. I spent like another 8 hours preparing the research for this video, so it's going to be definitely worth it. Leave a like if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you haven't already joined the Crypto Kids squad, because that's something you want to be a part of, spreading Bitcoin education to young people across the world and learning as we go. And finally, turn on the notification bell so that you do not miss out on future time-sensitive Bitcoin updates. With that said, let's jump straight into the 4-hourly time frame for Bitcoin, where in the past 8 hours or so, we've had a huge liquidation event where we liquidated short traders and simultaneously long traders at the same time. So this was a pretty volatile candle. Now we're in a price discovery phase where we're trying to surpass, or we're trying to get back inside of this bull flag. As a matter of fact, we can actually shift it so that we're still in a bull flag, because technically this does make sense. So Bitcoin is trying to reverse back to the resistance or upper trend line. And if we are able to hit it again, the upper trend line would be so weak that I give it a high probability that we break towards creating a new all-time high. But if not, if this support level fails, then personally, I would be expecting, if we dip below 68.2 with confirmation, we could be seeing Bitcoin trading between 67.3 to $66,500. If that level is broken right there, then we could be creating, a price move of $65,000. That could be where we sit. The importance is that we keep this uptrend going, right? So 65K, that would be keeping the uptrend going, and that would also be very good support for Bitcoin given the prior price action. So that's what I'm looking at in terms of the short-term bearish scenario. If Bitcoin breaks below that even more, then of course I'll be updating you on the Telegram community like I always do. But hopefully Bitcoin makes it back up to this upper trend line and we end up reversing and creating a new all-time high. Because if this is the short-term top, then it would be a little bit frustrating, because Bitcoin would be creating a lower high, keeping us in a midterm downtrend. And yeah, that pretty much sums up my short-term Bitcoin analysis. Going into the midterm, we can see that Bitcoin has been forming multiple exhaustion candles and indecision candles back to back. That's usually not a good sign, because on the weekly time frame, if we go, I told you this is like take 5,000. If we go to the previous all-time high for Bitcoin, we were forming similarly multiple exhaustion candles and indecision candles back to back. And that led to a topping out for Bitcoin. Now, though, I think it's different, because if we go to previous cycles, whenever Bitcoin reaches the prior all-time high, so in this case, we were creating a new all-time high. If we combine these together, of course, we usually retest it, we find some resistance, we break above it, we go under it a little bit, and then we go and create an astronomical high. That's usually what we see when we go into previous cycles for Bitcoin. So it's normal that Bitcoin is facing resistance here. It's absolutely normal. But in terms of a parabola, and if we go into the parabola theory, then we know that this is base 4 of the parabola, and on base 4 we can expect another significant move towards the upside, and in my opinion that should take us to the $90,000 to $95,000 levels. And with the current fundamental analysis that we have and the bullish sentiment we have, the buying pressure we have, I really don't think that 90 to 95K is a bearish target for Bitcoin, and that's when I'll be probably closing my long positions that we've been opening ever since $43,000 on Bitcoin. When I came back from Japan, we were breaking out of this huge inverse head and shoulders, so that was our first entry. Our second entry was when we broke out of this bull flag, and our final one was the breakout of this bullish pennant over here on the channel. And massive congrats if you've been along so far. And by the way, that's over on Bitflex. And I just want to mention pretty quickly before I forget, the winner of the Apple Watch giveaway that we ran with Bitflex, that has been announced. So if you did win, you would have gotten an email with the account account that you use to sign up to Bitflex, and you will be contacted to discuss how they can send you the Apple Watch. So do make sure to, if you guys trade on Bitflex with my link in the description below, make sure to check your emails if you were the winner, and you'll be contacted, or you would have been already contacted about the Apple Watch and how that can be delivered to you. And if you want to trade, again, you can use the link in the description below to get up to $68,000 worth in rewards in the rewards shop. And if you want to join the Crypto Kids community, you can also do so by using this link here for the Telegram group. And that's, again, absolutely for free, just to share my research and analysis when I can't make a full in-depth video at that particular moment in time. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the short-term TA and mid-term TA for Bitcoin. If we surpass the all-time high with good volume, because over here what was missing was we were lacking the volume here. Volume was decreasing and the market was super overheated, and that led into a bear market. Right now, there's positive volume. Retail is barely back, and traditional investors have not allocated basically nothing compared to what they will be allocating in the upcoming 6 to 8 months. And I think that's still super bullish for Bitcoin, at least in the macro perspective. And yeah, that's my analysis for Bitcoin. Now we can move on to the spot Bitcoin ETFs, because we're back into the 9-digit numbers for the net inflows. Over the past couple of videos and on Telegram as well, I've been mentioning that Monday will probably be a break-even number. So we got $15.4 million of net flow, so very small, near break-even. And then going into Tuesday, I mentioned that, okay, we'll probably be having a larger momentum due to the price surge that we experienced on Monday. And that's why we got $418 million worth of net flows into the ETFs. And that's been leading the price push that we're seeing towards the upside. I think that today we'll probably experience a net inflow as well, but I'm not expecting it to be a huge number. If we get a surprise from GBTC, that would be a surprise. But I think Gemini, Genesis, they're all pretty much liquidated. So the downward pressure that we're seeing from Grayscale, that should start to decrease over time, and hopefully it does, so that coming up towards the halving, we don't experience a 20 to 25% drop. But this was great for the Ethereum spot ETF, because Fidelity filed for an S1. Now, if we compare this with the Bitcoin ETF cycles, we know that S1s are pretty much coming up close to the final deadline, and we get the approvals in. But the issue is, if we compare it to the Bitcoin spot ETFs, after we saw the S1s, the SEC stepped in, and there were a lot of amendments being taken place, and there was a lot of collaborative work going. People skipped their holidays to be making sure that these S1s were amended. But here we're not seeing any action from the SEC apart from them delaying the ETFs. So that's kind of a problem, but we still do have 2 months until the ETFs are approved. Usually it was 90 days before that we saw these S1s getting amended with the Bitcoin ETF cycle. So I'm a little bit concerned. Hopefully we get a little bit of a comment and feedback session with the SEC. If we don't do so, then I don't think that the May 23rd deadline is going to be a suitable one for at least these Ethereum ETFs. But going into Bitcoin, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, again on live television, said that I'm very bullish on the long-term viability of Bitcoin, and that this is the fastest growing ETF in the history of ETFs. And he's correct. I mean, no other ETF in the world has accomplished what Bitcoin is able to accomplish, and it's super, super impressive. So it's like nobody would have predicted this, and people are still not understanding how bullish the ETFs are and the amount of assets that they have under management. And here, the CEO of BlackRock advocating Bitcoin is, again, I think something that nobody would have imagined and would have dreamed of 2 years ago. And here it's happening, right? And people are not talking about it enough. The Bitcoin ETFs in the United States, we got an addition. So there are now 11 ETFs. We got the Hashdex ETF finally approved by the SEC. It's not huge, so it's not going to give us incredible amounts of inflows, but hey, any inflow is inflow, and we'll take it. Moving on, we saw that this is probably the most bullish news out of everything. $5.9 billion Hong Kong asset managers, Value Partners, and VSFG have applied for a spot Bitcoin ETF. And we can see that they're probably going to get approved. The major difference that we're seeing here is that the Hong Kong ETFs, which we described and talked about many weeks ago, they're going to be in-kind redemptions compared to the cash create system that we have in the United States. So if someone were to redeem this ETF, they would be redeeming Bitcoin. So they'll be getting Bitcoin in exchange, not cash. And this should be very beneficial for the accumulation of Bitcoin in terms of the ETF issuer itself. And the bigger thing is, I mean, most money into Bitcoin and cryptos come in from Asia. And there's been no financial product that was offered to big institutions in Asia to be collecting Bitcoin. It's pretty tough to be buying Bitcoin in Asia. And I think this will give and unlock huge amounts of capital to be flowing in. And I think we could be even getting more inflows than what we've been seeing with the United States ETFs. And I can't even imagine what that will do to the price of Bitcoin. And on top of this, the London Stock Exchange confirmed that they will be launching trading of Bitcoin exchange traded ETNs notes. So ETNs those are the same as basically the Bitcoin spot ETFs on May 28th, 2024. Most money around the world flows through London. It doesn't flow through New York. And the amount of volume that we're going to be getting from London, can't imagine how that will impact the price of Bitcoin. Another huge piece of news. WisdomTree gained approval for the purchase of spot Bitcoin ETFs through their $206 and $117 million funds. That doesn't mean that they'll be buying $320 million worth of Bitcoin. No, they'll be buying a fraction of it. But hey, any sort of allocation to Bitcoin is an allocation for Bitcoin. So it doesn't really matter, big or small, they're buying up Bitcoin, and that's what really matters. And finally, Matt Hogan, the CIO of Bitwise, who's also going to be interviewed by Mr. M podcast tomorrow, I can't wait for it, mentioned that he's been around going to different conferences. He's found out that a lot of these asset managers do not have even any exposure to these Bitcoin ETFs, and they're looking to get exposure to it. Like 80% don't have exposure, and the remainder have like 1% allocations, which they'll be shifting into 3% allocations. And that's what I meant earlier on in the video. Like in the next 6 to 8 months, and maybe even 1 to 2 years, the amount of capital flowing in is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. And I'll talk about it more in detail with James Safart, which you can see an Easter egg there that he's following me, because I'm super grateful for this, by the way. I'm very, very much starstruck. He's going to be coming on, and we're going to be talking about the ETFs very soon, so stay tuned for it. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be huge capital flowing in. We're nowhere near what we deserve, and the price of Bitcoin hopefully should be reflected very positively in the upcoming months. But that sums up the ETF segment for this video. Now we'll jump into the final segment where we will go through the crypto news overall. And thanks for sticking with me. I know it's been a long video. I'll give you a quick teaser of what I'll show you, and that's going to be the Bloomberg terminal, ladies and gentlemen. So do stay tuned for that and that only. Now, moving on to the breaking crypto news. So here we can see that on May 15th, actually, this is still relevant for the Bitcoin spot ETFs. A lot of institutions that have over $100 million in assets under management, they're going to be revealing how much, what ETFs they hold on May 15th. And if we see that they hold a lot of Bitcoin spot ETFs, that could lead to the speculation that, okay, markets will increase. So May 15th is a date to be adding on your calendar. So let's go through some of the global crypto news that's happening. Now, this was pretty interesting. HSBC, probably one of the biggest international banks around the world, they have this system called Orion, where it's fully based off of blockchain technology. It's a private institutional blockchain where they've launched a token for gold. So it's a tokenized system for gold. They're offering tokenized gold to their investors, and that's huge because it's on the blockchain. And to me, I'm now investing in 2 different sectors here. Actually, real-world assets, right? So 3 different sectors: real-world assets, private institutional blockchain solutions, and finally quantum-proof blockchains. These things are what I'm investing in. I spoke about quantum-proof blockchains on the previous video, and in this video, I want to quickly touch upon solutions that provide private blockchains to institutional companies, right? Because I think that this will bring a lot of value within one corporation if you're able to develop smart contracts that are like an intranet for your company, where these smart contracts are linked in your company alone and it's private so that other companies don't have access to it. It will increase efficiency by tons. Imagine the amount of energy that you'll save by everything being on the blockchain and not having to be crossed through and cross-checked through different departments. You will save a lot of time and therefore make more money. Money is time, right? In huge corporations, and whatever time you save, that will generate more income. And I think that things being on smart contracts and being dealt in smart contracts, data being stored publicly on a ledger where other employees can access it, will reduce corruption, improve efficiency, and I don't see why nobody will be doing it. And I think it's super bullish. And two projects that are trying to do this are Avalanche and Chainlink. And Mr. M is going to be super happy when I bring it up tomorrow on the Moon Show. But, I think Avalanche and Chainlink are doing a good job in it. And that's why I've allocated some capital into these two projects. I'll talk more about it on tomorrow's Moon Show. And, groundbreaking news, Binance, the total users on Binance have exceeded $100 billion worth in capital. 95% of Bitcoin addresses are in profit once again. So market is looking good, but we're nowhere near to the parabolic bull run that we were used to seeing in 2021. And I think it's just going to get even more hectic from now on. This was pretty crazy. So DJT, what is DJT? It's President Trump's own social media platform called Truth Social that had a SPAC deal and had an IPO release today. And guess what? We can see here on the Bloomberg terminal, if I just switch to it very quick, it's up by an astronomical number. This is not it. This is something else that I'll get into in just a second. But Trump's media company here, it's up an astronomical sum, and it's boasted Trump's net worth to becoming he's in the top 500 billionaires across the world once again. And what's so funny is if we compare the revenues of Truth Social and Reddit, which had an IPO very recently too, Reddit had like $450 million worth of revenue last year, and Truth Social had like 5 million. And currently the market cap of Truth Social is larger than Reddit. And that's really, really mind blowing. And that's not crypto, but again, I just wanted to link it in there because it's interesting piece of information. This was pretty crazy. So KuCoin had outflows worth $1.8 billion across Ethereum and EVM chains, representing a 15% drop in exchange assets, according to Nansen. And is this concerning? Well, let's find out, because they had an issue in the United States. They're one of the biggest exchanges that have not blocked IP access from the United States, and therefore they're charged with offering unregistered securities to United States customers and everything that comes along with it that Binance pretty much experienced a couple of months ago. And I think the funds are safe according to what they're saying. I personally use KuCoin. I've not withdrawn yet, but I will be looking to doing that tomorrow just to, live stress-free. And of course, if you keep your Bitcoin and assets off of your exchange, then you own it and you don't really have to worry about it anyways if it's on a hardware wallet. But, here we can see an interesting discussion being sparked up because the CFTC is having a debate with the SEC that, okay, look, Ethereum, Litecoin, and basically all forks of Bitcoin are commodities and not securities. And, to me, I think Ethereum is probably a security, but if they come to the conclusion that it's a commodity, then these Ethereum ETFs can get approved very quick on May the 23rd. But I think every fork of Bitcoin is probably a commodity because Bitcoin has been classified as a commodity. Dogecoin, Litecoin, basically the same thing in terms of how it functions. So that would be super bullish to maybe see a Dogecoin ETF. What we saw was someone moving 2,000 Bitcoin that they first mined back in 2010. So that's like a 150,000 X gain, which is like huge. And that is really crazy. And if he's taking profit now, respect, right? Respect, which is crazy. What we saw was 2 days ago or yesterday, Nilam Resources, so the gold mining company that purchased like 24,000 Bitcoin, that was a huge thing, right? It was going super viral on Twitter. But what turns out is after 24 hours from that news, the CEO actually resigned, saying that they didn't ask for his approval and it was just a pump and dump scheme for their stock. So if we go back into the Bloomberg terminal, we can see that Nilam Resources did in fact see a huge pump and dump in their stock price. We can see that they've rised exponentially after the news came out that they were buying Bitcoin, but you can see a huge gapping in price of now they've basically gone down to zero. Look, that is terrible, but on the bright side of things, if a gold company is buying Bitcoin and that's positively affecting their stock value, I think that's super bullish for Bitcoin. And Eleanor Taratier has rightfully mentioned that, okay, if we go back to the KuCoin case, the CFTC also called Ethereum and Litecoin commodities in its lawsuit against Binance last year, but nothing has has really changed. I think there's more pressure than ever compared to last year. So we'll just have to be watching out in the next couple of months what will happen in the markets. In just 30 days, 59,500 Bitcoin have been taken off Coinbase, reducing their holdings to 327,000 Bitcoin, which is a 9-year low. Ladies and gentlemen, the total amount of Bitcoin on exchanges is at an all-time low. We're heading towards a supply shock. Be prepared. And according to Eric here, the Truth Social app actually was the most shorted stock on the market, and a lot of short sellers got liquidated, and that's probably why we went to exponential highs. But President Trump is wealthier than ever thanks to the rise in stock. And this is a pretty interesting piece of information, actually. And you're probably asking, okay, why am I going to be talking about it on a crypto video? But we can see that Visa and MasterCard reached a $30 billion swipe fee deal, and this is over an antitrust settlement. So what is an antitrust settlement? That's the first thing to cover. An antitrust settlement covers cases that involve monopolies. So, of course, Visa and MasterCard are monopolies in the transaction space, and they take between 1.5 to 3.5% of every single transaction, which negatively impacts the merchant because they make less money. And because they make less money, they charge more for their products. So the consumer gets screwed over at the same time. But they've understood that this is a monopoly, and they're doing a $30 billion deal, which would basically reduce these transactions overall. But still, they'll be taking royalties, etc. The issue is, right, how am I going to link this to crypto? Well, Bitcoin solves this entire situation. Even if it's a $100 million transaction, there's like a $1 fee that you pay with Bitcoin. It doesn't matter. Yes, there's a fee, but it's not a percentage of the overall transaction itself. And that's why Bitcoin is revolutionary. There's no intermediary that takes a cut. It's all verified. It's authentic on the blockchain, and it's instant. Whereas with Visa and MasterCard, it takes like 1 to 3 business days for money to transfer from your account to the merchant. So it's incredibly inefficient. And I hope that one day people realize that Bitcoin can change all of this. So cocoa, if you guys remember, Orange Juice Friday was a thing, and orange juice was absolutely going through the roof. And I know a lot of you were buying up orange juice like me. Now the new thing is cocoa, right? Cocoa has gone up by an incredible amount of money. And here they mentioned that it went up to $10,000. But look, on Friday, it's usually Orange Juice Friday. I'm going to rebrand it to Cocoa Friday, and we'll talk about it more on the Moon Show. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, Coinbase had a huge hit. It had a huge loss against the SEC because the SEC basically won. They haven't won anything, but the judge agreed to hear more of what the SEC has to say about offering unregistered securities on Coinbase, and the judge dismissed Coinbase's objection. So that's an issue, but we'll look into it as the weeks pass and how that evolves. It's going to be super important for the cryptocurrency industry itself. And actually, I do have one more thing. The SEC is planning to ask the judge of the case for $2 billion in fines and penalties from Ripple Labs. So if Ripple will have to pay $2 billion worth of fines, then they'll probably have to sell XRP to pay for it. And that would cause the price of XRP to dump. So XRP holders, be careful. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, again, smash up the like button. But ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you all very shortly. Take care, everyone, and bye-bye.